right, guys, welcome to the No Bullcrap Podcast. I'm here with my very wise father that I have learned so much from over the years, and I'm very excited about this episode. We're going to be talking about the election, Trump and Biden, and I wanted to talk specifically about like the differences between our generation and how we perceive those two candidates. And so let's just jump right into it. I mean,
well, now wait, it's election day, so are we doing predictions? Because if we are, then I'm either going to be seen as the wise guest who guessed it right, or I'm never going to be invited back again because I got it so wrong.
Well, I mean, we can make all the predictions we want, but we'll never really know. And
well, we better know at some point.
Yeah, well, we will. But well, and to be honest with you, like this is why I don't really trust poll numbers. I've just kind of come to the place where I don't trust fully like anything anybody says. This world and our country especially is so full of people just with misleading information and twisting information, and I don't know, do you trust polls nowadays?
Well, I know that polling is normally an accurate science, right? I know that from 25, 30 years of being in this arena, but I also know that the way they're polling right now is not accurate because they're not putting the right inputs in to get the right outputs, and they know that. And so the guys that have actually gotten it right, they got it right in 2016, they're saying something very different from 95% of the pollsters out there. So that's a really complicated way of saying I trust that polling can work if it's done right, but I do think there's a concentrated effort to depress the Trump vote by making it look like Biden's going to win by 10 points when it's absolutely not true. There's no way that he's going to win by that much, if at all, and I think the opposite's actually going to happen, and that's what this one particular polling company that got it right in 2016 is saying, that Trump's going to win, that the surge is there. They don't account for most people that get called, and they say who you're going to vote for. And right now, if you say Trump, they're worried their house is going to get, firebombed or whatever. Right? They're literally genuinely afraid that they're going to get canceled by their own neighbors and community. So that is not being factored by most pollsters.
So you think a lot of people on the right, they're afraid to speak out right now as people are trying to gain information because of that reason.
Yeah.
And we're not going to see that influx of right votes for Trump really until Election Day.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, we're definitely seeing now a surge of these boat parades. What was it, a 96-mile, on the highway in Arizona. 96 miles
Incredible.
Of Trump flags and cars and all that. So, the conservatives are getting more vocal and more courageous. But for every, 50,000 member crowd that he draws, there's 10 other people that are afraid to admit that they are against the fascism in the streets, which means they're for Trump. That's what it's become. You're either for the craziness in the streets, the actual fascism, the actual Marxism and craziness that's happening in the streets, or Trump. I mean, and I don't know that he ever knew he would become the one that is actually the symbol of Americanism or not, but that's certainly where we are right now.
I doubt he ever did. I mean, he was just a man who loved America, that saw the corruption and, as he likes to put it, just the amount that America was losing, and just, in my opinion, stepped up and said, I got to do something. I got to do my part. And we put him in the most powerful position in the country.
Well, and initially, his New York personality was a major turnoff to me. I'm a Southern.
I mean, to all of us, we're not.
Well, to a lot of people, but actually, New Yorkers. I would talk to friends from New York, and they'd be like, "Hey, that's, that he represents us well. That's our tone. That's our attitude. That's how we do things."
Yeah.
One good friend said, "Look, he's just like my father," and she tried to tell me in 2016. She met him. She knew him. She said, "He loves our country, Rick. I'm telling you, he loves our country. Trust me on this. He will fight for America." And at the time, I was like, I don't know. I don't like this guy. He rubs me the wrong way in so many ways, and he was so insulting to the other Republican candidates that I'd been for. So it was hard for me in 2016 to get on the Trump train. I don't know that I ever really got on the Trump train. I voted for him. I campaigned for him in the last few months because the courts are so important to me.
Yeah.
But, now, man, I'll crawl over broken glass, as they say, to vote for Donald Trump.
Let's talk a little bit to the people who don't vote at all because they can't bring themselves, if they don't like Trump and they dislike him that much, they can't bring themselves to vote for him.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point where, even though you dislike his personality, the things he says and does, but you still have to vote for him based on principle, not just from the things he says he's going to do, but just your civic duty. Like, how did you get yourself to that point?
Well, part of that is me being a historian. I look at things in the context of history, and I realize that there's no candidate, actually, if you really knew them well at that level, that you would actually like.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. I mean, they're almost all going to be arrogant.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
even Reagan had his issues.
Yeah,
I'm sure he did.
Ronald Reagan, I'm sure you would have had things you definitely disliked about him. John Kennedy's Kennedys are like royalty for the Democrats, and frankly for America back in JFK's day. This is a guy that cheated on his wife all the time, did a lot of things that weren't, what we would consider to be, culturally acceptable, right? And make you like someone. So you have to get past personality. When you vote for somebody, you are not voting for whether or not you enjoy sitting down and having a beer with them. That's the old kind of political thing that people used to say, would you want to have a beer with this guy? It's not about who you like being around. It's about who's going to bring in the policy that you're going to like having in your backyard and in your home and your family. It's much more about what they're going to do, not whether or not you actually like them.
Do you think there should be any element of the presidency being a kind of stoic and regal and a lovable person, or should it all be about their policy? Like, where do you draw that line in this person represents our country?
Yeah,
and so
no doubt. I would much rather have a Ronald Reagan style of a gentleman, that articulates well the values and all the things that I stand for. No question, I'd rather have that. That's not the America we live in right now, unfortunately. And it would be, if I had my druthers, as we say in the South. If I had my druthers, I would rather have for all you folks that aren't from the South, I would rather have someone that had both, right? That stood for the right policies and was more socially acceptable. Because manners do matter. Let's not skip over that. All right, manners matter. In fact, William Wilberforce was the guy that ended the slave trade in England. Fought his whole life for it. Great movie to watch, Amazing Grace. It's a fantastic movie. And he said that God had given him two main goals, two main things that God laid before him. One was to end slavery, and two was a restoration of manners. Now, that meant morals as much as it meant being nice to someone. But he talked about the fact that when you open a door for someone, when you're respectful to other people, that is morality, because it's causing you to put someone else first and causing you to think of yourself less, right? And that's part of an example of morality in the culture. So I totally think we need a restoration of that. We're not there right now, and right now it's a wartime president. This is not a time when that is more important than winning the war we're at. This is like England in World War II. Winston Churchill was a very uncouth, socially unacceptable, rude, crude.
Probably wouldn't want to have a beer with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was a very...
I mean, we would. That'd be pretty fun.
Right, we would love it, but very unlikable. Totally unlikable. And but he was exactly what England needed. They needed someone that had the backbone to stand against Hitler, and had the backbone and, frankly, the intellectual ammunition that he had a moral clarity that is hard to describe. He knew right from wrong immediately and knew which side to be on. And Trump actually has that. It's hard for me to even say that. I mean, I joke on radio all the time about, I just said moral clarity and Donald Trump in the same sentence. What's going on here? Because that's not what I expected in 2016. But on virtually every issue, he's instantly gone to the right moral decision. Israel versus the Palestinian Authority. And when he found out we were giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the Palestinian Authority that was going immediately to terrorism and killing Jews, he said, why are we paying for the killing of Jews? That's wrong. And he pulled the money. No Republican or Democrat had been willing to do that. He instantly knew. When he was asked about partial birth abortion in the third debate in 2016, in fact, that's when I really became a fan of Donald Trump. That was right before the election. And I was being dragged along up until that point. And his visceral reaction to the concept of partial birth abortion right there in the middle of the debate was just, it's evil. He said, why would we ever allow that? That's wrong. That's evil. And I thought, man, this guy's got a gut reaction for moral clarity. And we've seen it play out on the international stage, certainly with policy here in America. And now he really has become the symbol of a restoration of basic American values that we fought for your whole life, right? And for most of my life. Yeah. And he's become I don't think voting for Trump is about voting for him now. It's about voting for those values. It's about voting for a restoration of patriotism and a value system that says life is worth defending. I mean, that's a big deal. And to think that guy right there has become the most pro-life president in history. That's
crazy.
hard to imagine, but it's what's happened.
Nobody would have thought that ever. Okay, I had somebody DM me, and you know what a DM is on Instagram?
A direct message or something like that?
Hey,
man,
wow,
I'm figuring this stuff out. Look, I have a phone and everything. Yeah.
No, but I had somebody
How old
DM
does he think I am?
I mean, you're pretty old. I'm just saying. No. So somebody DM me because I did a video yesterday about why I was voting for Trump in 60 seconds. And basically they were going off on this whole, like, all the basic, Trump's racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, all this stuff. And they sent me some article or whatever on what, like, Trump phobia is, basically just like or no, it's not a phobia, like a Trump
derangement syndrome,
or an obsession with Trump.
Yeah.
From our side.
Yeah.
And it's this whole thing of, like, when you're so just enthralled with this person that you start denying reality and facts, and you live in their fantasy world and nothing they do is wrong.
Yeah.
And I would say that a lot about people on the left and the media and who are falling for their narrative. But I mean, what would you say to somebody who attacks you with that you're enthralled in this false, just fantasy world that Trump is trying to create, and he can't do anything wrong?
Right.
Because there's an extreme to that. Like, we support him for all his policies and the things he's done, and I even think he's a hilarious, entertaining guy, and I like a lot of his things that he does. But just the fact, like, there's not a what do you call it, a Trump derangement syndrome.
Trump derangement syndrome.
There's no,
for those who are against him.
But whatever the opposite of that is, something who's
I would say that is absolutely true for those on the other side. When nothing he does, no matter how good it is, and and we've shown this in videos where something they were for and said publicly they were for, and then he accomplished it, and then they lambasted him for it, and you're going, wait a minute, that's Trump derangement syndrome, right?
Yes.
If anybody says to me, look, you're so obsessed and you're for him no matter what, I say, you don't listen to my radio program, you don't watch my Facebook page, you don't pay attention to any of my social media, because I think that's why people like Ben Shapiro. I think that's why they like my radio show, because we call him out when he does something that's wrong. It's about the policy, not the person or the personality. When he came out with his, what do you call it, Black Platinum plan, I immediately posted and said, this is racist. This is wrong. We should never give money or create loan programs or admission programs based on race. That is racist. It's by definition racist. And so no different than during the whole Black Lives Matters deal that all these companies were saying, we're going to give discounts to black-owned businesses, or we're going to give you a different price if you're black versus if you're white or brown or red or whatever. That's racist, right? And so I came out against that. And then when Trump came out with his Black Platinum plan that is racist, I said, that's wrong. Now I get it. He's being political. He's trying to say to the black community, I do care about you, and I realize you have challenges that might be different in your particular community. And I'm all for programs that say to a socioeconomic area, regardless of race, if you're in an urban area where, there's been riots and things like that, and there's a lot of plight, and it's difficult for you to start a business, I can see having programs specifically aimed at that. But when you say you only get this program if color of your skin is white or black or whatever color, that's racist to me. So I called him out on that. And, I think that's the best way to say, look, I'm going to do my best, and I'm fallible, right? I could make mistakes, but I'm going to do my best to be intellectually honest. Regardless of the person, it's about the policy. That's where I think the left has become unhinged, and that's why we've lost our media. We used to have a media in this country that did that as well and would say, hey, our job is just to report what's happening, not be biased. Now they're so biased, they've lost the credibility of actually reporting. And I never want to get to that point where people think I'm supporting someone just because it's them instead of the policies that they're for. I'm the same way about legislative races, school board, you name it. I don't care how long I've known you. I don't have a friend in politics. I have policies that I support, not personalities or people. Yeah,
and you see the opposite of that from the left. People only are voting for Joe Biden because they're not voting for Trump.
Right. And let's not hide the fact that there are Trump supporters that are like that. Right.
True.
So
true.
There's definitely people on the right that are the same way. Sides. He can do no wrong, all that kind of stuff. I'm here to tell you, any politician you ever support is going to disappoint you. They're human. They're fallible. It's going to happen. So you don't put them on a pedestal. And people make fun of Trump supporters and say, well, you think he's going to save the day. No, we just know that he stood up against an onslaught of anti-American sentiment in a way that we've never seen any politician in my lifetime. And we also know that he's followed through on what he said he would do. That's why I like him. Because the politicians promise stuff all the time, and they rarely follow through. Even people that we know that you've grown up around, that I served with when I was in the legislature, friends of ours, right? But rarely can you say of somebody almost everything that they campaigned on, not only did they push for it, they got it done.
Yeah.
And that's this guy. I mean, I've never seen...
That was one of the main 3 reasons that I had in that video of why I voted for him, was that he followed through with what he said he was going to do. And I said, enough of these empty-suited politicians who run campaigns on promises they can't keep. And then like Joe Biden, they do nothing in their 47 years up in Washington, you know?
And Joe Biden talks about integrity's on the ballot. The character of the country's on the ballot. Well, for me, integrity and character is doing what you said you were going to do, actually being honest about what you're going to work for and where you're going to put your energy, following through on your word. I know there's a lot of stuff from Trump's past when he was younger or even 10, 15 years ago that people love to bring up. Christians actually try to bring that up and say, I can't vote for him because of that. Well, they would have never been able to vote for David, King David, Moses. All those guys are off the, the murderers, adulterers.
It's like, sorry that he's a human and he's sinful.
Exactly, exactly. What I say is, what has he done since he's been in office, right? And his integrity is the fact that he has done what he said he would do. He's been honest with the American people about what his goals are, and he's put his weight behind that. He's put the power that we gave him whenever we voted for him. He's used that to do what he said he would do.
Yeah, and especially for Christians, when they speak about his so-called lack of integrity and they can't vote for him because of his morality and his personal convictions and stuff, just look at the people he's surrounding himself with.
Right.
Especially Mike Pence.
That's right.
I mean, you cannot look at that ticket and not be a fan of Mike Pence, especially as a Christian. It's like, how do you not think that he is having that positive effect on Trump, and he is that safeguard there for him when it comes to Christian values, specifically, and then just morality in general for the nation.
And I'll say this: I've known Mike for 20 years, and he is a true patriot and a biblical worldview guy. I mean, he is solid on biblical principles. Hardworking, knows how to work the system. He's wise about how he does it, right? Like some people can go in and just, they won't work with anybody. There's no compromise, and compromise is not a dirty word in politics. You have to do that to get something done. And so there's many people on our side, on the right, that are just self-righteous almost about the way they do it. Mike he really has that balance of being brilliant, being biblically grounded, but being effective. And I really think God's used him to advise Trump from the beginning on the right appointments, the right people to surround, the right strategies, all those things. That's been a true blessing. When he named him as VP, that really gave me hope.
Yeah. During the vice presidential debate, he just kind of seemed like that grandpa that you'd like to sit around the fire and just listen to stories from. He probably reads Proverbs a lot because there was just a lot of wisdom in what he was saying.
Yeah.
So what are some specifically like your go-to policies that Trump has either surprised you on in the last 4 years, or you've been thankful that he's followed through with on? Like, if you had to give your elevator pitch on these are the good things that he's gotten done for the nation, what would you say?
Well, I mean, as a believer and as a Christian, life is my number one issue for sure. And as we said, he's the most pro-life president in history. The judges that he's appointed,
I was googling his pro-life accomplishments yesterday and just getting like dozens of results. It's unreal. Lists of the things that his administration has gotten done.
Yeah, I have. We do on our radio program. We do every Friday. We do what we call Good News Friday, and we just rattle off things that have happened. That I have totally lost count at how many times we've said this got done or that got done on the life issue because of something Donald Trump did. Yeah. But one that we don't talk about much is his willingness to take on the perversion of biology and sexuality. I mean, he has taken on the fight against transgender in the military, against all of these things that have tried to really transform our culture and our society in an evil way. I mean, the idea that Joe Biden would sit there in that town hall with George Stephanopoulos, Snuffleupagus, for all the Sesame Street watchers. Anyway, when he sat there and that lady talked about transitioning her 8-year-old child, and for Joe Biden to respond as if it was so morally wrong for anybody to think that she shouldn't be able to do that with her child. And I'm thinking it's the exact opposite, right? They try to act like they have the moral high ground on that issue when in fact it's child abuse. Yes. I mean, it's evil what they're doing. Yep. And for Trump to take that stuff on when he didn't have to, because that's a losing political issue right now. It's popular in the culture to side with the sexual perversions of our culture. For him to take that on, you ask what has surprised me? That's the one that has surprised me.
That is very surprising, because I feel like that issue specifically, among many others, conservatives are still trying to win the argument for the emotional argument. We have the very good statistical and logical argument for why it's harmful for the youth and things like that, but again, it's just very surprising that he would step up and do that, because I feel like we're not winning that argument.
We don't even know how to argue it.
That's true.
I mean, honestly, it is one that we're back on our heels still going, we never thought this would happen. I mean, we're trying to even understand it and going, how do you win people over on this? We're shocked that the culture has moved towards that so quickly. I mean, honestly, there's very few people. Ryan Anderson, there's a few other people out there that are actually good at articulating the correct biblical position on this and why it's back, because you got to be able to articulate not just why it's wrong biblically, why is it bad societally, why is it just going to produce a bad result for that child, for our communities, for our nation. So yeah, it's one that we're not good at responding to right now, and for him to take it on like he did. Anyway, there's so many things that he's done. I mean, the way that it's just like what Reagan did in terms of pride in our military, strengthening our military again. I'm a big advocate for a restoration of patriotic education. And so the fact that he's done this 1776 commission, the fact that he's stopped the critical race theory being taught in our federal agencies, it's massive. And no Republican's been willing to take that on out of fear of being called a racist. Just like Chris Wallace did to him in the debate, where he's like, well, what's wrong with racial diversity sensitivity training? They always have these nice terms for it. What they're actually teaching with critical race theory is that because you're white, you cannot not be racist, and there is no way for you to fix yourself, and therefore you must pay reparations and do all these things. And the second thing they're teaching for the global scale for the nation is that America is not fixable, that it is so racist and so evil it has to be destroyed. That's why these kids are tearing down monuments all over the country, because of critical race theory. It's been taught in our schools and taught in our federal government. I mean, our federal employees have been indoctrinated with this, and Donald Trump said, enough is enough. This is destroying our nation. It's divisive. It will not be done in a federal agency or any contractor that's getting federal money. I'm telling you, that is massive, and now states need to do the exact same thing. So for me, that's one of the most important things he's done, even though that was this year, because it's really in response to all this Marxism in the streets that's happening right now. That is the epic battle of your generation. I mean, that's what you're going to be fighting for the next 20 years. It's between Marxism and freedom. That's the two sides.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think the chances are, if Biden-Harris ticket does get elected, that we see Biden gone pretty quick into these first 4 years, and then we end up with Harris? And just the dangers of that. I saw an interview with her the other day. I can't remember who it was with. It might have been 60 Minutes or somebody, but they told her, a bunch of polls have you as like the most liberal senator in Congress right now. And she just kind of laughs.
Did her little cackle.
No. What? No, I'm not. Are you sure about that? But I mean, like, that is so scary to me. That is very frightening that they're pushing Biden, of course, as the guy you're electing, but in reality, they're electing Harris.
Let me start with this, and
we got to make it quick too.
Okay, we do not deserve mercy in our country. We deserve judgment. We deserve, for what we've done as a nation over the last 50 years and moving away from God, we deserve Kamala Harris as a president. She's the most shallow, liberal, foolish candidate we've ever seen potentially take the White House. If they win, there's no question Joe Biden, he can't make it a year. I don't think he can make it 6 months. He can't even handle the rigors of the campaign. There's no way he can handle the presidency. Is a tough it's the toughest job in the world, on the planet. You see the aging of everybody that's ever served as a president almost immediately in the first year. The pressures are enormous. The guy has trouble walking to the stage right now. He can't. He has trouble. I mean, there's no way he can handle it. So I think within 6 months to a year at the most, that he'd be gone and she would be president. And I'm telling you, that is a world that would be hard to come back from. It's possible. If we came back from Obama, or we're coming back from Obama. And you got to remember, Kamala Harris, Obama, Nancy Pelosi, that's the same political crowd. They all could, that same San Francisco money, that same very left-wing philosophy. So anyway, that's what we deserve, but I truly believe we're going to get mercy instead of judgment. I believe Trump's going to win today. I think it's going to be a big win. The question is, can they steal it in Pennsylvania and a few of these other states where they have a huge fraud operation? Right.
Okay, so real quick, we're down to our last couple minutes here. Give us a little bit of hope. If Trump wins, what's kind of the game plan for the country? And if Biden wins, what's the game plan going forward from that?
Well, our hope is the same either way. Our hope is definitely in Christ, that our joy is in our Savior. And, so regardless of the way the election goes, duty is ours, results are God's. That's always our attitude. We're going to fight for freedom no matter what. It's going to be an uphill climb if he doesn't win. I've seen Trump as kind of a pivot point for our country, a chance to turn this thing around. If he doesn't get 8 years, if he only gets the 4 years, we will have stopped a lot of damage, and through his court appointments. We'll have a lot of victories in the coming years in that realm, but it's going to be a lot tougher if Biden and Harris win. But either way, the hope is the fact that the solution is still the same. The solution is still to come back to principles that work. Principles of freedom and liberty work. We have to restore them. That means you and I have to know them, and then we got to teach other people to know them. Everybody that's watching and listening to this, they have the same opportunity we have to become a student of freedom, to learn what works and what doesn't work. What are the principles and policies that are going to make you free and allow your children to be free and allow your business to be free? And if you want to have those things, then you got to learn what the inputs are to get those outputs. And so whether it's Trump or whoever's president, our work is at the local city council level, the school board level, the state legislative level. We have to fight on all these fronts, and every citizen's got to realize that at this point. I think 2020 has been a year that has awakened our people, and there are millions of Americans now that are engaged that weren't engaged 8 months ago, 9 months ago. We see that in what we're doing with a number of Constitution coaches and people taking classes. So the hope is the fact that the American people are waking up, that the Bible still has all the answers for every problem we face, and if we'll follow the instruction manual that the Creator gave us. He made us. He knows how we work, how our brains work, how our bodies work, and if we'll follow the instruction manual that He gave us and how we form our neighborhoods, our societies, we will get a good result. So that doesn't change. Who wins the White House is going to change what we're up against and how tough our fight's going to be. But I believe the answers are still the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to learn a little bit more, guys, on how to get involved in this fight, if you're a young person, 16 to 25, check out patriotacademy.com. All right, that's one of our organizations where we teach you the legislative process and how to be an effective Christian in politics. And then another one is constitutioncoach.com. Dive into a very detailed study into the Constitution, the history of it, the principles that it protects, and the ideals and the philosophy of it as well. So that's two really good resources to go check out. That's our podcast, guys. Dad, thanks for joining me, and we will see you guys in the next one. I forgot one thing, guys. Sorry, jumping right back into this. We partnered up with an organization called Defender Gear. If you go to defender-gear.com, is that correct?
That's correct. Hey, you get a hat like this one, or Reagan's even more.
One I'm wearing right now, and use code Reagan10. You will get 10% off of your order.
Yeah.
They've got some phenomenal gear, guys. Hats like this, shirts, sweatshirts, all sorts of great patriotic stuff, and awesome quotes and everything. So if you want to rep some patriotic clothing, make sure to go check that out. Again, that's defendergear-.com. What is it?
Defender-gear.com.
Defender-gear.com. Use code Reagan10 and get 10% off. See you guys in the next one.